Today we look at the craziest stat lines that the best players in the league have had throughout their careers. We're gonna have to go a little quick through some of these since we have so many, but let's start first with Damian Lillard, who earlier this year put up a box score of 71 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists, while shooting 58% from the field and making 13 3-pointers. The man had a 70-point game and was just 1 3 away from tying the all-time record for most in a game. And at the same time, he was also 32 years old, making him the oldest player to ever have a 70-point game and the only player over 30 years old to do it. Devin Booker also once put up a stat line of 70 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists, which put him down in NBA history for the good and the bad. The good is obvious, but the bad part was because he became only the third player to ever record 70 points and lose. So while the stat line is great, if you look a little further into it, it kinda gets spoiled. Then if you watched the game, it got even worse because you'll remember that he stayed in the game way longer than he normally would have, played almost the entire thing and was rushing shots at the end to try and hit that mark, which he eventually did. Now there's one more current NBA player to record 71 points in a game, and I think his stat line may be the most impressive. But before that, I want to give a shout out to today's sponsor, Ada. The colder months are coming up, which means COVID-19 cases could be on the rise. And with everyone likely to be spending more time indoors or with friends and family during the holidays, it's important to know that there are now treatments available for COVID-19. There are now treatments available for COVID-19 if you are or know someone who has a high risk of getting severe COVID-19. All you need to do to see if you're at high risk of severe COVID-19 and eligible for those treatments is check out Ada's eligibility questionnaire. It's a short and free series of questions that may allow you to talk to a clinician via telehealth within 2 hours to receive guidance on the next possible steps. And it's convenient too because if prescribed, you can pick up treatment from your local pharmacy. With the sickness that still has some unknowns, it's best to get as many answers as possible ahead of time, so you're well prepared if you or anyone you know catches it. So thank you again to Ada for sponsoring today's video. Once again, make sure to take Ada's free health questionnaire to learn if you're at high risk of developing severe COVID-19, and find out if you're eligible for treatment by following my link in the description. Now let's get back to the video. Donovan Mitchell had this stat line: 71 points, 11 assists, 8 rebounds on 65% shooting and 47% from 3. How do you almost record a 70-point triple-double? Of course, he got a little help because the game was sent into overtime, but that's still such a little amount of time to record so many stats. And speaking of that, let's not forget Nikola Jokic holds the NBA record for fastest triple-double of all time. And this one technically boils down to a first half stat line, because in it he played 14 minutes, but he recorded 16 points, 11 rebounds, and 12 assists. The record he broke had stood for almost 70 years. But if you watch the way he plays, it makes perfect sense. It seems like rebounds just fly straight towards him, and he's gonna score until you make him pass, then he's gonna get assists all night long, which is exactly what he did here. And it was against a good team in the Milwaukee Bucks too, whose best player is Giannis, and he also has an NBA record for fastest stat line that he set in 2021. It was a record that was held for 62 years. His stat line was 32 points, 20 rebounds, and 5 assists, but he recorded it all in just 30 minutes of play. That's only 2.5 quarters, and in that time he had one of the best stat lines possible that a player could. But speaking of NBA history, Stephen Curry said it with his stat line back in 2016, when he had 46 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists. A great game from Steph, but nothing historical, until you remember that this was the game that he broke the NBA record for most threes in a game with 13. And not only that, but he was 13 of 17 from deep that night, which is an insane 77%. So this is definitely the best stat line of Curry's career, even if that record didn't hold up for too long, because it was just 2 years later that Klay Thompson would break it on his own. And I considered his 14 threes in the game to be his most impressive stat line ever, but I think the 37-point quarter was by far the best one, because it gave him a third quarter stat line of 37 points on 13 of 13 from the field and 9 of 9 from 3 in just 12 minutes of play. This is up there with the 1 or 2 greatest of all time. The craziest stat line of Draymond Green's career is easily his triple-double without points, and this one's just as impressive as it is annoying, which is perfectly fitting for Draymond. But speaking of annoying, his teammate Chris Paul had a stat line that couldn't have been any less of that, because in 2016 while playing for the Clippers, CP3 had a game where he recorded 20 points, 20 assists on 50% from the field and 0 turnovers. Chris was the most likely player to have a game like this, but to just be so efficient with such little errors is something you really don't see every day. At least you didn't until Tyrese Halliburton started making a name for himself this year, because now he has games like this all the time. And just recently he had a game with 27 points and 15 assists on 0 turnovers against the Boston Celtics. Not only was he playing against one of the best defensive teams in the league, matched up against the best defender in the NBA, but he had a game similar to Chris's while also scoring a lot more points. And while we're on the subject of efficiency, let's not forget Russell Westbrook. Now listen, his 20 point, 20 rebound, 20 assist game may not have been the most efficient, but it was easily the best of his entire career. He finished the game on only 35% from the field, which isn't good, but 20s across the board has only ever been done one other time by Wilt Chamberlain, so it was still without a doubt a historic night. History was also made just last year by Ja Morant, because in his second ever playoff game, he had the stat line of 47 points, 8 rebounds, and 8 assists against the eventual champion Golden State Warriors. Not only did they win the game, but he also scored his team's final 15 points that night to seal it. Huge things have been expected of Ja ever since that performance, and even though he's kind of let us down since then, so has another star point guard in Trae Young. I mean, Trae had that huge Knicks series where he embarrassed them, and ever since then, himself and the Hawks have missed the playoffs and kind of let everyone down. But every so often, Trae will still go off and have some outstanding stat line, like when he put up 56 points, 14 assists, and 4 rebounds on 65% shooting and 60% from deep. But of course, in casual Hawks fashion, this massive game came in an L. Maybe that team shouldn't have traded him away for Luka Doncic, and I'm sure that's what they were thinking when they watched him put up a stat line of 60 points, 20 rebounds, and 10 assists, easily being the first game like it in NBA history. And he was doing way more than just putting up numbers on paper, because down by 3 in the closing minutes, Luka also hit a free throw, intentionally missed the second, got the ball back, and made a shot to send it into overtime. Then in OT, he scored 7 of his team's 11 to win the game. Not many players have what it takes to put a team on their back like that, but Jimmy Butler is definitely one of them. And we all remember the 2020 bubble NBA Finals when he put the Miami Heat on his back. His best game of that series and arguably his best overall stat line came in Game 3, where they were facing an 0-3 deficit with a loss. So to answer, Jimmy recorded 40 points, 13 assists, and 11 rebounds. But the night gets even more impressive seeing that he did it while also being 0 of 0 from the 3-point line, becoming the first player since Shaq to have a 40-point finals game without making or even attempting a single 3. In today's NBA, that's wild to do, especially while being a perimeter player. And it's great to have a game like that without a 3, but a guy like James Harden shows what a difference you could make with them, because his wildest game on paper came against the Orlando Magic, when he had a 60-point triple-double, which I'll be honest did seem a little crazier until Luka came in and had that one with 20 rebounds, and Donovan had the near 70-point triple-double. But this game's still one of the all-time best without a doubt, and by far James's best. Now, both of those men shared a teammate who also belongs in this video in Kyrie Irving for his historic performance that I spoke about in a recent video when he had the most efficient 50-point game of all time. 54 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists on 19 of 23 from the field, 7 of 9 from 3, and 9 of 10 on free throws, giving him a 98.4 true shooting percentage. And it doesn't get much better than this, but that didn't stop Jamal Murray from trying. I also spoke about this one recently, so I'll make it quick, but Murray will give you 50 a couple times every season. And this time in particular stands out on an all-time scale because he gave the Cavs 50 on 84% shooting and 0 of 0 from the free throw line. The wild thing here is how efficient he was, but also scoring 50 points without getting fouled a single time. Anthony Davis keeps this argument interesting though on who's had the best 50-point game, because he once put up 59 points, 20 rebounds, and 4 assists on 24 of 34 shooting, 2 of 2 from 3, and 9 of 10 from the free throw line. Not only was he nearly just as efficient, but he did it with 20 rebounds. And we haven't seen too many big men make an appearance on this list, but we have room for one more in Joel Embiid because he also had a 59-point game. Joel doesn't put up many triple-doubles, but on this night last year, he actually almost had a quadruple-double, putting up 59, 11, 8, and 7 blocks. And what a stat line that would have been. It would have put him close to joining NBA history. Zach LaVine came close to that too in a game against the Charlotte Hornets, because in it he had 49, 4, and 4 on 13 of 17 from the 3-point line. He was just 1 3 away from tying the all-time record that we mentioned was set by Klay Thompson, and I'm sure he wanted that last 3. LaVine gets a bad rap these days for never having been in the playoffs, and the Bulls being bad and all that, but for a dunk contest champion to be putting up 13 of 17 from deep in a game is something we've definitely never seen before. And for as great as certain players are, not everyone is known for putting up insane stat lines. Just look at LeBron James. He holds nearly every NBA record imaginable, and he's had top tier games every single night for his entire career, but he's not scoring 70 or putting up the fastest triple doubles. I would say his all-time best game, at least on paper though, would be back when he played for the Miami Heat. They were playing the Charlotte Hornets, and he had a game where he put up 61, 7, and 4 and did it on 66% from the field and 8 of 10 or 80% from 3. And this was before LeBron could really shoot like that too, which makes it that much more impressive. Kevin Durant was the same way, all-time great scorer and player, never had a 60-point game, doesn't have too many memorable stat lines, but I'd say his best was when he played against the Milwaukee Bucks in the playoffs a couple years ago. He was out there without Kyrie Irving or James Harden, and yet still willed his team to a victory with a 49 point, 17 rebound, and 10 assist performance while playing all 48 minutes that night. KD did all that he could, and well, it paid off. I mean, until the Bucks came back and won that series. Like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed, and I'm out.